Tech Challenge Call with Max and Avery. I'm your host, Max.
And I am Avery. How are you guys?
Recording a little delayed this week as yesterday was Thanksgiving, so Avery and I were both a little busy, didn't end up recording. But we're recording right now, Friday night, after the Iowa game. Avery, how's your Thanksgiving?
It was good, man. Had the wife's family over, just kind of ate. I did a turkey trot yesterday with no training at all. Did okay, 10:30, 10:27, and so not too bad. It was like 10:26 pace, so not bad at all. But yeah, it was good. Kind of jumping out back into running after a stressful semester I've had. What about your Thanksgiving? Spend it with the fam?
Yep, pretty good. Just went home, ate some turkey, ate green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, all the normal suspects, pumpkin pie. Went to Friendsgiving with our high school friends. That was a good time too. That was actually Wednesday night. Went and hung out with them. Today I went to the bar to watch the game with my dad. So basically what I'm saying is I've had a long weekend of a lot of drinking. So
Fun stuff.
that probably won't happen too much tomorrow. Might take the rest of the weekend to recover a little bit from that. But
as you can see, I'm still indulging in alcohol. I've also had a couple of days, but
if I were still indulging in alcohol right now, I would not have made it up to record this podcast. I would probably be passed out right now. But we will go ahead and get started with some sports news. First thing up on sports news right now, the Washington Commanders actually fired their defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, after a 45-10 loss against the Cowboys. Did you watch that Cowboys-Commanders game at all?
I did, man. Yeah, that was a blowout. One, I got two takeaways from this game. One, the Dallas Cowboys, for the first time, I think I'm going to say, are contenders. And I think they have a real shot of making it to the Super Bowl this year.
They looked really good. Like, they looked hot as all hell. Did you see Dak had his turkey leg in the pot? After the one touchdown, ran over, grabbed it, just started eating it. Like, nope, I'm done. That's it. I'm MVP. I'm out of here.
Yep. Dude, he's a beast this year. This year, he's played really well. He's changed a lot of doubters. Like, I know, like, a lot of people have, like, questioned if he is the guy in Dallas. But he's having a hell of a year, and I wouldn't mind having Dak Prescott as, like, the Chicago Bears quarterback. That will never happen because the Cowboys love the guy. But he is a beast. And the second takeaway, man, is, like, the Washington's defense. Do you think they miss Montez Sweat and Chase Young yet? Because, oh, my God.
Yes, they very much do. I mean, their interior D-line is fine. Like, their two interior guys doing a decent job. But what the Cowboys did, exploiting that, just take it to the outside. And they had no edge rush. So, yeah, they're definitely hurting a little bit. Kind of a bold move when you think about it, getting rid of both of your starting edge rushers. Like I could see getting rid of one of them, kind of keeping the other, like, at least you're still strong on one side, but to completely and utterly just, like, take away both of them is, like, you guys are leaving yourselves a little weak right now.
For sure. Well, and so with the firing of Jack Del Rio, like, he's been a prominent defense coordinator in the league for a long time. He's been a head coach. He was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders back in the day. Do you think they're going to fire Ron Rivera here soon? Because the way I look at it, they have a new ownership. Josh Harris took over the team in Magic Johnson in the beginning of the year. And they have a really good offense coordinator in Eric Bieniemy that's been up for head coaching jobs so often, and he hasn't received one. And he left Kansas City so he would get under the spotlight of Andy Reid. And he wanted to make a name for himself, and so he went to Washington. Washington's offense isn't usually the problem. Today, Dallas's defense, they didn't have a solution for it. But the way I look at it, this is the perfect opportunity to kind of move into, okay, Eric Bieniemy, this team is yours. If you go and do well the rest of the year, you're the new head coach. I think this is the first opportunity you could have to audition for a head coaching position before other teams could have you.
I definitely think there's a likely chance with it. They're not great by any means, and if you're changing up things in the office, why not change up the staff as well? And like you said, it's not even like you'd be completely revamping the staff or anything. You're just leveling up your OC, giving him a higher position, and kind of letting him fill in what he wants underneath that. And defensively, I mean, they already just fired the DC, so that's all going to be under change anyway. So I think there's a good chance that Ron Rivera goes as well. Bieniemy moves up to the head coaching position. They find a new defensive coordinator, get another offensive coordinator to work under Bieniemy, and just see what they can do with that. Because they're not a bad team. Like, they're not doing god awful. They just need something.
For sure. But moving on to the next game, there was a Black Friday game today. I had no idea, to be honest.
First NFL game played on Black Friday ever. It was the Dolphins and the Jets. The Dolphins did end up killing the Jets 34-13. But yes, this was the first time they've ever had an NFL game on Black Friday. I would normally be like, this is awesome. I love it. That's great. But I don't know. It got shadowed slightly by the Iowa-Nebraska game for me personally. So I did not pay all that much attention to it because I was too busy, like I said, at the bar, a little drunk, having a good time because Iowa managed to pull off that dub.
For sure, 100%. Zach Wilson was benched for this game. They started Tim Boyle in this game. We know Tim Boyle. He played for the Chicago Bears last year for a couple of games at the end of the year, and he sucked. And much of the same in New York. He sucked this year. I mean, 179 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. It was bad, man.
So Zach Wilson just benched because of performance, or is there something else going on with him? Like, why?
Yeah, performance-based. So Robert Saleh wanted to change the offense, so they moved Tim Boyle. You got to think New York's missing Mike White right now because Mike White was that perfect backup quarterback for Zach Wilson that could go in and win you a couple of games, and he did that in New York.
Now, with his performance in this game against the Dolphins, do you think they keep with it, like keep giving him a chance, or do you think they go back to Wilson, like, you know what, that wasn't any better. Wilson, get back here.
I think that the Jets are dead in the water. I mean, they're 4-7, and I don't think Rodgers will come back for a 4-7 football team this year and risk further injury to his Achilles. So I think that at this point moving forward, the Jets are just kind of in limbo mode, and they want a top pick. They want a top 10 draft pick, and they're going to probably move forward with Tim Boyle this year because he's worse than Zach Wilson. And so I think
they're just going to tank for the pick, let Boyle go in. Keep Wilson healthy maybe to some degree. Like, hey, this could end up being the guy. Let's kind of spare him a little bit. I could see them sharing reps a bit too, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe they start doing just halves. Like, all right, each of you get a half. Let's kind of see what you got. Like, you're competing for next year right now, pending a Rodgers move.
Yep. I agree 100%. And the Dolphins are 8-3 right now, by the way. And they have not beat anybody to substance. Like, yeah, they beat the Chargers and they killed the Broncos, right? But everybody else they beat has a losing record. And the times they've actually played competitive teams, like the Eagles and the Chiefs, they've lost. And so, like, yeah, they're 8-3, but I'm not ready to remove that fraud label because you beat the Jets. They have a great defense, right? But you beat Tim Boyle on the offensive side. Like, I don't think the Dolphins are that great, but they have a great record. And so, like, I don't know, man. Like,
I think the Dolphins get hot and cold. I don't think they're super consistent in what they do. I think they have a lot of hot and cold moments, which you're going to have when you have guys like Waddle and Hill out there streaking down the sidelines and getting on the ball. But I think if those guys aren't having, like, their good games, or if you're struggling getting the ball out to them, it's rough. I think they're a very, very shoddy kind of team where, like, they take a bunch of shots, and with those two guys, they can take a bunch of shots, and that's how they get these run-up scores on different teams because busted coverages, they run by them, not as strong of a secondary in some of these lesser teams. But when you play a good team and they take away, like, a higher percentage of those shots, the score comes down drastically because that's all they really have is just taking a million shots a game.
Well, and I think it also goes back to Tua. Like, Tua is a big factor with him being the quarterback. If he's on, he's going to have a good game. But Tua's also like a hot and cold type of quarterback. Like, he could have a really good game. Like, today wasn't even that great. They were just playing a non-existent offense in the New York Jets. He had 1 touchdown but 2 picks. And you see that. And then last week against the Raiders, he threw for 3 touchdowns and no picks. So, like, you just see that throughout Tua's career. Like, he's very up and down type quarterback. One day he's going to look like great and look like the next Dan Marino. The next week he's going to look more like Zach Wilson, for example. So It comes back to how the quarterback position is played too, and Mike McDaniel's offense.
Yeah, consistency out of a quarterback is absolutely necessary and absolutely key. On this quarterback note a little bit, we'll move away from our sports news. We know it was all football oriented. This is a whole football episode. But we'll move into our college football recap right now, starting with Iowa. Not the Nebraska game that just played this morning, but we will first start with the Illinois game. I was at that game with my dad. First time going down to Kinnick and watching a game live. It was a very good time. I think my dad really, really enjoyed it. And it made it all the better that Iowa actually managed to pull off the win, 15-13. That is done by a safety on the very first drive, which was a great sign. I was like, oh, man, getting a safety right away to start out the game, like that's it. We're about to absolutely kill Illinois. Let's go, blah, blah, blah. No, Illinois brought it back pretty close. We're actually down for a chunk before a last-second score. So a little bit of a stressful game, a little bit of a worrisome game. Did you watch this game at all?
Yes, I did. Dude, this game was something special to watch, though, because it showed, like, the embodiment of the Iowa fucking Hawkeyes. Like, no offense whatsoever until when it counted. And that's kind of what it's been all year. Like, Iowa looked terrible on the offensive side of the ball. Deacon Hill looked garbage. He had 167 yards, 1 TD. But the one thing that last podcast we talked about, we needed a player to step up. One of us, I don't remember which one of it was, we mentioned Joe Evans needs to step up. And Joe Evans, as a senior, he stepped up, man. On that 4th and 2, when Illinois was driving, they decided to go for it on 4th and 2 with, 3 minutes left? Joe Evans swatted the ball and turnover on downs. Iowa gets the ball. We ran out the clock. And I was so happy because if we would have lost this game that we're going to talk about next would have meant so much more if Iowa would have lost.
With the Illinois win, Iowa officially clinched the West and move on to the Big Ten championship game. So without beating Illinois, we would have to beat Nebraska, which we did do this morning, 13-10. But I agree with you. If we don't beat Illinois and Nebraska becomes a lot more of a high-pressure game, I think Nebraska personally would be playing for a lot higher stakes, which would heat them up a little bit more. Granted, they were competing for a bowl game today, as they only have 5 wins on the season. They're not going to get a bowl game. But I would be very nervous to see an Iowa-Nebraska game where it comes down to this is going to get you to the Big Ten West.
100%. All right, so this Iowa-Nebraska game, and Nebraska always plays Iowa tough. Like, it doesnn't matter if they're 3-9, whatever, like last year. They beat us last year, and they always play us fucking tough. And this game was just, there was no offense whatsoever in this game. And it came down to a minute 32 left in the game. It came down to a minute 32. And during this game, I even screamed, what the fuck, Petrus? Because Deacon Hill was playing just like Spencer fucking Petrus. And he threw a pick at the end of this game, and it put Nebraska in field goal range. Granted, there was a holding call on the return that pushed Nebraska out of field goal range, and so they had to move the ball. And at that moment, I thought we were going to lose this fucking game.
Yeah, I was super, super nervous. I felt very calm and very confident right up until Nebraska kicked the field goal to tie it 10-10.
Yeah.
When Nebraska tied up the game 10-10, that's when I started losing my shit. I was like, oh, fuck. Iowa doesn't have the lead anymore. That means the defense can't really help us out that much. Like, this is now on the offense. Like, at the point of holding the lead, in my head, it's no longer on the offense. I was expecting the offense to fail completely. But if we have the lead, the defense can take care of their job. They can manage, and we can hold on to that lead and win the game. When we lost that lead, very, very nervous. I still felt slightly confident or slightly okay as overtime. I was like, okay, maybe we can make something happen. Like, who knows? The defense will probably shut them out in an overtime scenario. We can hopefully get a field goal off. I don't know. But when that interception was thrown, that freaked me out. I thought that was the game right there. Like, no overtime, no nothing. I thought that was about to be game. Nebraska, 13-10, complete inverse of what happened.
Yeah.
Deacon Hill was just – he had some bad drops early on where, Reganini dropped it, and I think he dropped a couple of them actually. Hit him right in the chest, right in the hands, just dropped. So that doesn't help a quarterback's confidence. But even after that, Deacon Hill was trying to throw to guys that were completely covered, like corners on the backs of guys, and he just tried to hit them, and the corner almost picked off more of them. He almost threw like 2 or 3 more picks if the corners would have been a little earlier on it or had a little better hands.
One, this game shouldn't have been that close either because we had 2 field goals fucking blocked in the first half of the game.
Drew Stevens was not having a great day either, apparently.
No. Yeah, no, it was bad, man. And everything was chalking up to a Nebraska Cornhuskers victory. And then we picked the ball off. Did we ever figure out who that was that intercepted that ball? Who?
Herkett.
Herkett picked off that ball, and we had a fantastic return. Like, he returned it, about 20 yards to get us to the 45-yard line? And then it was...
Which is huge, because if he doesn't return it that far, the offense doesn't get that field goal off.
And then we go into overtime, and that would have been terrifying. And then Caleb Johnson, with the play of the day, breaks it off for 20 yards. And how much of that is Caleb Johnson, and how much of that is our offensive line knowing this is a key situation? We need to hold our blocks, because that was fantastic.
I think it's a little bit of both. Johnson, in total, didn't have a great game. He really didn't play that much. It was mostly Jazz playing out there and a little bit of LaShawn. But, yeah, Johnson really didn't get that many touches. And when he did get a few, he wasn't really busting it like we needed him to. He actually fumbled it once, which he recovered it right away, but he did fumble it once when he first got in. Deacon Hill fell down twice. Both times he managed to flip the ball up to the running back. Thankfully, we almost gave up a safety. We literally almost gave up a safety. And the only thing I could say is, props to him for tossing the ball up so that the running back could take it and run it out of the end zone, because he was going straight back on his butt. This game, like you said, with 0 offense, this was not a typical Big Ten defense, low-scoring game. This was a fucking 0 offense, high school, shitty college football game. And I hate to say it, but this game was just atrocious to watch on both sides. There were 3 or 4 turnovers by both teams. You say we should have won by a lot more. I agree, because we did have 2 field goals blocked. But at the same time, we both were turning the ball over a ton, and it just looked sad.
Oh, it looked bad. And so this is a little side note, but do you know what the over-under was in this game?
23 and a half?
24 and a half.
4
and it's still, the under still hit for fucking Iowa. This is the lowest over-under ever in sports betting history. Lowest ever in
You say that Iowa already didn't get the lowest ever. I mean, it was still only 31 and a half, but we already had the lowest under ever this season. This is the second time we've had the lowest at we just set our own record.
Yeah, we set our own record, but this was insane. 24 and a half, that's insane. That's so low. And Iowa still hit it with only a combined points of 23, which is insane. But it all did come down to a certain kicker that we had no idea who it was. It came out because they benched Stevenson, and it came down to Marshall Stevens. It came down to Marshall Meter. Marshall Meter is a transfer from Central Michigan, and it came down. This is his first kick all year, and he nailed it.
So did he transfer at the beginning of the season? He would have had to, because I do not remember seeing him over the summer. I didn't even recognize the name. When he went out and everyone was like, oh, they took Stevens off. I was like, Blom is suspended, isn't he? Who's out there right now? And they're like, Meter. I'm like, who the fuck is that? So he was not there all summer when I was there. So I was like, is he a freshman? Do I just not remember the name very well or something? No, he's a senior. I was like, who is this guy?
Well, actually, so I'm reading an article. He's actually he's in his doctorate for medical. So he's going to be a doctor. And so he transferred to the University of Iowa as a graduate. And he hit the game winner today. He played at Central Michigan, and he's going to be a doctor at the University of Iowa. And he's our 3rd string kicker. And how crazy is it? Kirk's like, yep, you got it. Don't worry about it. Stevens is having a bad day. Go out there and nail this for us. And he did. He hit it. And that was amazing, dude. Talk about a storybook finish for an awesome year. I mean, even though our offense is statistically the worst offense in college football, seeing us go out and win this game and move to 10-2 on the year is just phenomenal. And it
Yeah,
just all
it's
goes back to
crazy. It's crazy that we've managed to get to 10-2 the way our offense is played. And I think a part of that also just kind of shows the lack of talent or skill in the Big Ten West. Like, the Big Ten West is just filled with no good teams.
no.
Like, there's Iowa, who's not bad, because, like, their defense is firing. They have good special teams, but, like, after seeing that offense, you cannot call Iowa a good team.
No.
And they've beat just about everybody in the West, and it's just rough. Like, the Big Ten West, when UCLA and USC come to join, they are going to run the West every year for a hot minute at least.
Well, and I almost am glad that Minnesota beat us now, because there's no way in hell we would have ever been an 11-1 team. Because if we would have won that game against Minnesota a few weeks back with the Phantom flag, we would have been 11-1 right now. And that's just really embarrassing. That's bad. That's so bad. I mean, we did beat an East team this year in the Big Ten. Rutgers is the East team.
Yeah.
And Michigan State, they're an East team. We just had a really favorable schedule this year.
We did. Rutgers was probably our best win, if I would have to say, just because Rutgers actually had a decent record. They weren't like bottom of the pack in the East. But I'm curious to see though how we end up doing in our Big Ten championship game. We will talk about that a little bit in a minute, but first I want to kind of recap Oregon State versus Oregon. And when I say kind of recap, I mean because it is currently on right now. I'm currently watching it. Oregon looks like they have it pretty solidly in the bag, though. They're currently up 21-7 in the third quarter. So I think Oregon's got this handled. Bo Nix looks like he's doing a good job out there. He has a rushing touchdown so far in this game.
3 touchdowns in this game.
I said a rushing touchdown.
All right, yeah. So 2 passing and 1 rushing. And, yeah, Bo Nix is looking good, man. Oregon, this is a game that Oregon needs to win. I mean,
yes.
It's
they want to have any chance.
Yeah, it's a rivalry game. Oregon State. It's just like Iowa State, and it looks like Oregon State is playing them tough. I mean, 21-7. I haven't watched this game at all, so I don't know.
The refs. There was one really bad, which we didn't even get into any of the ref play in the Iowa game. It wasn't horrible, but there were a couple kind of bad moments. But refs always just piss me off and annoy me. And there was a big one in this Oregon game that the running back got the ball in like a swing pass, and the defender went to tackle him, but he rolled over the defender on the tackle. No knees or elbows or anything ever touched the ground. Like, clear as day. Like, it was only feet and his left hand at one point on the ground. And he takes off running. He probably has a touchdown. The refs are blowing the whistle, stopping the play, like saying he was down. They don't even let it play out. Like, at the very least, you let it play out, and you look and you find out, oh, he was down, so you mark it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Didn't even let it play out. Turns out he wasn't down at all. But because they killed it and everything, they had marked him down right where he got tackled. And luckily, Oregon did finish out that drive with a score. But still, I was upset. I was very upset by that.
Yeah. No, that sounds terrible, by the way. But yeah, I don't got much on this game, man.
Speaking ref play, then I do want to go back to the Iowa game because there was one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit. What was it? It was the one false start penalty that came after they marked the spot for like a 3rd and 1, I believe it was.
Yeah.
It was 3rd and 1. They marked the ball. They went to run a play, called a false start on it, and then Nebraska challenged the spot for the 3rd and 1, which was the previous play. Like, I understand that there was a flag thrown, like it was a false start, so no play was truly run, But at the same time, they did snap the ball. Like,
Right.
them snapping the ball right there is the next play. The play before that should not be reviewable. But yet, Nebraska challenged it after the snap of the ball and the whatever. Like, a play was run. I don't understand how they can go back and review the spot. The review ended up getting killed. Like, it still worked out in Iowa's favor. They were like, no, call stands. Like, we were right. Fuck off. But still, there should have been no review to begin with, because the ball was snapped for the initiation of the next play, and you cannot go back and review a play from the past.
I agree, 100%. One thing with that, right, is at one point, do you put computerized refs in a game? Think about it. Like, there's been a lot of talks in like
How?
developmental league. There's like AI refs that can do that type of like learn the play, like learn different. Like I saw an article a couple weeks back about AI refs. They already implement them in baseball, which it seems like, yeah, baseball could be, because here's the strike zone. Here you go. Like, you got this certain strike zone. That's a strike. That's a ball, right? But in football, how would that look like? Because they were
I don't
talking
think it's
about football.
possible.
I think it could be. I mean,
There's
uh,
so many, like, just little nuance things, and like, there's no way an AI. And I mean, like, maybe it is. Maybe down the line we get there or something. But to me, in my head, that has to literally be like the most complex, smartest, like, on the same level as a human being AI ever. Just all the little like tugs and like question, because there are a lot of calls that people question that refs make and stuff. They're like, oh, what? And it's like, you know what? That one can honestly go either way. Like, that one is just like, who could say? It's really close. Sometimes it's just up to discretion a little bit. But I don't think there's any way. How would an AI be able, like, what are we using here? Cameras too? Like, how are they seeing this? Where are they placed at? Like, what is being actually like viewed and recorded? What are they analyzing or looking for? Like, anytime they see any sort of jersey movement on a receiver, are they going to call defensive holding? Like, or, I feel like I feel like that would have to be so highly detailed, and it's just not possible to get there yet, at
yeah,
least yet.
which I think it could be in the future. But yeah, I agree. Like, and I was on the stance against it too, because there is something about the human nature of being a ref, because there is like certain things that you have to like come with, like certain judgment calls. Like, if you're letting the players play, let them play. And like PI calls would be insane to call if you were like an AI, because like, how do you decipher what's a PI? Because like,
Exactly. Like,
yeah,
that begins to come up to discretion, and you can't like teach an AI discretion. Like, that's, like, and every ref is different, like, that's something you got to kind of tell your receivers and your DBs, like, hey, early on in the game, figure out what they're calling, what they're not calling, whatever. And if you're a good ref, you're consistent about it. Like,
right,
a good ref doesn't necessarily make every call the 100% correct way or anything, but you're consistent in what you allow and what you don't allow. And so I think as long as you're consistent, and that's something the teams can get a feel for, like, that's fine.
right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think AI, it would have to come a long way before they could be incorporated in the NFL.
Yeah. But moving on into our upcoming games that we have going on here, I'll give you brief updates on the Oregon game if it ends before we're done with this podcast. But upcoming, I do have Iowa versus Big Ten East champs, but mostly just because I want to talk about number 3 Michigan versus number 2 Ohio State. That is happening tomorrow, Saturday at 11 a.m. Whoever wins this game wins the East, and we'll be playing Iowa on December 2nd. Who do you think comes out on top of this?
Oh man, I think it's going to be Michigan, but I really, really hope it's Ohio State. And the sole fact that we're Iowa fans. I do think Michigan is the better team overall, and it's even with the interim coach. I think Jim Harbaugh still has a huge say on what goes on with that program, even though he is suspended. But I do think Michigan's the better program, and I think they do have the better shot of winning this game.
I agree. I think Michigan is the overall better team. That being said, I don't know. I don't think I've actually watched Ohio State play at all this year, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure if I've seen Michigan play really either. I'm trying to think about it. I've seen them play a little bit. I feel like
Yeah,
I've seen some Michigan clips kind of here and there, but I haven't seen anything from Ohio State. All I know is they are both undefeated. Ohio State is ranked number 2 in the country. Michigan is ranked number 3.
I
And
hate that, by the way. Go ahead.
no, go on.
All right.
What do you
So,
hate about that?
well, I think a lot of it has to do with the scandal. Like, I think Michigan is so
Oh,
far above
100%.
Ohio State, and I think that like the NFL, like not the NFL, but the college football voters for the top 25 in the playoff look, I think they take that into granted when it should be impartial. I think that should be an impartial decision, and
See,
Michigan should be the
that
number
is
two.
that is the issue with the way we do the college football playoff
Yeah,
right now too. Is because I mean it's the same thing with Florida or Florida State
yeah,
because quarterback gets hurt, they move down in the rankings, and it's kind of like, hey, we didn't lose a game, we actually won a game really well. Our quarterback got hurt in it, but like, why did we just move down? Oh, because your quarterback got hurt, and they know you're probably not going to be like a top contending team with that quarterback out, Travis Hunter. So like it's little things like that where it's just kind of like, come on, man, like that shouldn't dictate this stuff.
right. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Right now, our top four teams in the country looking right now is Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington. So Washington did leapfrog Florida
Yep.
State strictly because of that injury, which that should not happen ever. I think, yeah, quarterback's an important position. Jordan Travis, he was a Heisman hopeful, right? We've talked about him so many times, Jordan Travis. And now that he's hurt for the year, they shouldn't have dropped. They shouldn't have dropped. They won the game pretty handily. And unfortunately, they did drop because they're starting quarterbacks out. And Washington did favor in that. But yeah, no, I agree, man. Like Ohio State, like if you look at like who they played and Michigan's played, Michigan's looked better against the same common opponent that Ohio State's played all year. And so like it is frustrating.
For
And
sure.
we talked about the AI and like refing. Maybe they should implement AI in college football rankings instead, because this is
That I
two
could
way.
get behind. That
Yeah,
I could totally get behind. You set it up with algorithms based on just scoring, yardage, fucking all whatever stats you want. Go crazy. Have
mhm,
a giant mega algorithm that just computes hundreds of stats from the season and whatnot. You can give them different weights so that record has a much higher weight than scoring exactly, or yardage has a higher weight than whatever, like all that jazz. That could be a perfect ranking system to be like, hey, this is utterly unbiased, unaffected by human error, all that sort of stuff. Like, this is 100% just an analytical ranking.
yeah, I think that would be actually perfect for college football. But isn't that what the BCS ranking was essentially prior? So would we be just going back to what the BCS was
I
prior
don't,
to college football?
I don't even
Just
care. I think that's a better
yeah,
system. I think taking the biasy out of it in that regard is just a better system. But
I
that's irrelevant, as next year we're going to have the 12-team playoff, and they're finally going to do it how I like things to be done, which everybody else does in all other sports and all other levels of football. So finally, FBS is coming to their senses and doing things the right way.
you the sad part is like 12-team playoffs. Iowa could have a potential of being in the 12-team playoff right now.
Oh,
Uh,
easily.
yeah,
All they
easily.
have to do is upset like a number 3 Michigan or number 2 Ohio State, and they win the Big
Well,
Ten and they win.
and that's the funny part with this, right? Is like the reason like I'm so biased on Ohio State winning this game is because 1 out of 10 times I think Iowa could beat Ohio State. We play Michigan 100 times, we lose 100 times. Like I because the thing is like Iowa matches up so much better to Ohio State, and not very well, but like better than they would with Michigan because Iowa is physical on the defensive line in the front seven. And that comes back to it. Iowa's physicalness on the front seven, and especially with the sophomore quarterback and Kyle McCord and not a veteran quarterback in college standpoint, and JJ McCarthy, I think that comes back to where Ohio State, yeah, I think Iowa could beat Ohio State. If everything was firing on all cylinders, we see the Deacon Hill we saw against Rutgers, I think we could win a game 13-3 or 13-6 or something along those lines. I do think there is a reality that Iowa does win that type of game. Michigan, on the other hand, they're just as physical on the defense. They have the number 3 defense in college football right now, or number 2 defense in college football right now. And I just don't think there's a chance in hell that Iowa could win that game.
I do feel slightly better about facing off against an Ohio State team compared to a Michigan team a little bit. But also at the same time, I don't know. I feel like I want to go against that Michigan team slightly just to kind of have a comparison of 2 years ago when we were in it and be like, hey, we got brutally murdered 2 years ago by Michigan. And I would love nothing more than to go into that game against Michigan right now and be like, hey, look, we held up a decent fight and held them to somewhat of a not too horrible score. Also, as far as rankings go, Ohio State is 35th in total offense in FBS. Michigan is below that. Haven't seen them yet. Still trying to find them. But technically, their offense does rank higher, or their total offense. They have more total offense so far this year, I should say, than Michigan does. Which, like, as good as Iowa's defense is and everything, the stronger of an offensive opponent they play, the more difficult that becomes, especially with Cooper DeJean being out, since he would be our primary help against that.
For sure. So I know you mentioned the Iowa-Michigan game a couple of years back, and you're right. So we did lose this game, and I'm going to say the score, and it's embarrassing. 42-3 2 years ago.
Yeah.
42-3. That's embarrassing. But going into halftime, it was 14-3.
53. Sorry, I just found Michigan. So Ohio State 35, Michigan 53. As far as total offense goes in FBS.
There we go. So yeah, maybe we do compare better to a Michigan team, Michigan offense. But their defense would just shut us down completely.
I mean, wouldn't any defense? We're 130. We're 130th in total offense.
Shit, dude. UNI's defense could shut us down. Like that's how bad we are. UNI's defense could shut us down. But no, yeah, going into the half of this Big Ten championship game 2 years ago, of course, completely different teams. And Cade McNamara was actually their starting quarterback. That's hilarious. But it was 14-3. 14-3 going into half. We were holding with Michigan. And then in the third and fourth quarter, they just sparked off. But no, I do agree. I think it would be cool to play Michigan and see how we could compete. But I want to win. I do want to win, and I think Ohio State's our best chance to win this game. I mean,
I don't know. Even with Cade being on the sideline, he's got all that Michigan knowledge. So does Eric All. So, I mean, as far as scouting for Michigan would go, I think we'd have a pretty decent advantage there, right? I mean, shit, we have their old quarterback. He probably knows everything there is to know about their offense, right?
That's true. Give it to Phil Parker. I mean, it's nothing that Michigan hasn't done throughout the years, right? Because of their scandal. So, maybe...
I'm not talking about stealing signals. I just mean, the scheming in general and, the play calling style and, shit like that.
Yeah, so, maybe we do want to face Michigan. But also, I kind of want to change the pace. And Iowa versus Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship, it's intriguing to me. I think it would be cool to see. But at the same time, I don't want to see Ohio State in the playoffs again. So, I don't know. I got a mixed bag with this.
That's true, because you have to think, whoever does end up playing in the Big Ten Championship after this game, ultimately, they're going to be the ones playing in college football playoffs. If not both of them still. I could easily see one of them losing to the other, and the loser still being ranked number 4, and the winner being ranked number 1 or something.
Well, and yeah, that's what I was about to say. Do you think if it's a 21-20 game that both of them go to the playoffs this year? And it's a good-ass game. They fight till the end. Game-winning field goal. Both of them go to the playoffs.
I think if it's a close and really solid game, specifically high-scoring too, not so high-scoring that it just looks like shit defense, but high-scoring in a way that's just, both teams are just kind of pounding each other and like putting points on the board. Like if this is a 13-10 game, like Iowa Nebraska, I don't know. I feel like that doesn't look great. If this is, like you said, similar to like a 28-27 game or something like that, like now we're talking, okay, they're scoring, they're keeping with each other. I think if it's a real good close game like that and both teams are playing well, so like I said, not an Iowa-Nebraska close where both teams are just doing horrible, but both teams are doing really well, I think they easily still both stay in. And obviously it depends on what everybody else does too. Like,
For sure.
Does Oregon beat Oregon State right now? Are Oregon and Washington going to face off against each other again in the Pac-12 championship? Who's going to win that one this time? There's still so many other things that could just happen to everybody else that you have to kind of take into factor too.
Well, and for both Big Ten teams to make it to the playoffs, like Alabama would have to beat Georgia. That's kind of my mindset. Alabama would have to beat Georgia, and they would still miss out. Like Alabama would miss out. Georgia probably would miss out, and that would actually be spectacular to see Georgia not in the playoffs. Like that would be amazing to me.
That would be refreshing after they just won it back to back.
Right. So like, yeah, maybe we want to see a 28-27 Ohio State win or Michigan win, and then Michigan moves up to number 1. Ohio State's like number 3. Washington number 2, and Florida State demolishes whoever in the ACC championship. That would be an amazing playoff field, and then Georgia's number 5 or Alabama's number 5. That would be incredible. That would be
awesome. I just looked it up. Despite Ohio State being ranked number 2 and Michigan number 3, Michigan is actually favored to win by 3.5.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the college football voters, they really suck. They're just terrible. Like it's bad, dude. Like they really need to have Michigan as a number 2 team in the country right now.
Yeah, that should be flip-flopped. And that's an easy flip-flop to make. I mean, they're 2 and 3, like, yeah, it's a toss-up, whatever. They could both be just about right there. But you need to make that switch. Michigan should easily be number 2. Ohio State, I think, needs to go down. Well, we will see what actually happens when that game comes. I will be watching it tomorrow morning.
Me too. Hopefully.
All right, I'll call you. But we'll move on into our NFL talk here. First, we'll recap our Bears game. The Bears did just play the Lions in Detroit. And by just, I mean technically this was last week's game, which is normal for us recording-wise, but we did have a bunch of games already played because of Thanksgiving, so it just feels a little strange to us. But Bears did lose to the Lions 31-26. Avery, tell us about this game.
I hated this game. So I got a mixed bag right now. One, the Bears, we were up 26 to, I think it was 26-17 or something, going into the last 4 minutes of the game. And our defense figured out a way to lose this fucking game. I don't know how we figured out how to lose this game, but our defense figured out how to lose this game. And I'm not going to say Justin Fields looked spectacular in this game, but he looked okay. I mean, he had a good game coming back.
He started out really, really hot. Per usual, that first drive was just a hell of a fucking drive. Marched the ball right downfield, running, passing, doing it all, fucking got in the end zone. It looked beautiful. And then we lost the game because he fumbled.
Yeah. It was like the perfect mixed bag with Justin Fields. Like, you see the great potential that he does have. And then at the end of the game, he doesn't know how to win a game.
26-14, by the way. We were up 26-14.
26-14. And a lot of this, it does come back to coaching. I think so. Like, I mean, Matt Eberflus, you need to learn how to close out a game too, right? But at the same time, with all this being said, like, it does relate back to Justin Fields. Like, I think, like, a lot of it has to be with Justin Fields. And at the end of the day, even though Justin Fields looked good and he looked like he could be our franchise quarterback, one thing with it is at a certain point, the Bears need to move on from Justin Fields for the strictly fact that we are in a cycle with quarterback position. And it dates back all the way to Lovie Smith, right? Lovie Smith, he got fired. Jay Cutler was his quarterback. We brought in Mark Trestman. We also brought in Josh McCown, a longtime journeyman quarterback. He looked good under Mark Trestman, but at the same time, Jay Cutler, you paid him all that money. He was your starting quarterback. So we move on to John Fox as our head coach. John Fox comes in. John Fox is like, okay, well, I want to start fresh with a new quarterback. John Fox hires or drafts Mitch Trubisky. John Fox brings in Mitch Trubisky. He only has 1 year under Mitch Trubisky. So he gets fired, so forth. We get Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy comes in. He's like, because Mitch had a good year. Like, he had a good year with John Fox. So, we stayed with Mitch. Matt Nagy didn't bring in a quarterback. And then look how that turned out. We had a good 2018 season with Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky. He went and Matt Nagy won the Coach of the Year that year. And then 2019 it was bad. 2020 it was even worse. And then Matt Nagy finally gets to draft his quarterback, Justin Fields. Justin Fields is his starting quarterback. And then he only gets 1 year with Justin Fields. We bring in Matt Eberflus. At a certain point, we need to cut ties with both and let them draft their quarterback. And I hate it because, like, I'm wearing a Justin Fields jersey right now because, like, the sad reality is he's probably the best quarterback Chicago's had, like, potential-wise.
Pure talent-wise and stuff, Justin Fields is probably the best that we've truly seen in a while. But as far as the gameplay for us has gone, I'm not sure if we could say that. Because he does do some really good things. He also has a lot of turnovers. And I would argue he probably has the most turnovers per game in the past, few years from our quarterbacks. That is not something you're going to be able to look up real quickly. So we can figure it out later. But that is not going to be something that you can sit and figure out right now. It's going to take way too long, and it's just going to leave me talking for 10 minutes.
For sure. But, Justin Fields, I agree. He's 6-27 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's rough. The Bears are 6-7 with backup quarterbacks starting in replacement of Justin Fields. That hurts, right? 6-7 compared to 6-27. One, I think it does go back to the Bears don't know how to utilize him correctly, or he doesn't know how to win in a big situation. But it does hurt, man. Because we all thought the Bears finally found their quarterback, and now we're in this placement that we're still searching. And I don't know. I do think Ryan Poles moves on from him after this year, but I don't want to. I do, but I don't want to. But I also don't want to suck for the next 5 years because I don't want to give Justin Fields a 3-year contract and then we suck for the next 3 years because he doesn't know how to close out a game. But I also don't want to see him go to another team and he plays like a top 10 quarterback because you can't tell me he doesn't play like a top 18 quarterback in this league.
It would be hard to see him go to somebody else and then start falling out for them. But at the same time, if that did happen, hopefully somebody somewhere in the Bears organization would finally get it through their heads that hey, maybe we're the fucking problem here.
Yeah, because he does have the potential to go to somebody else. I think he could be great in Pittsburgh, Atlanta, some other team that might be a quarterback needy team next year, and he could have a revitalization. He does remind me of a Ryan Tannehill, for example. Ryan Tannehill, he was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. Ryan Tannehill, he looked really bad in Miami, and he left Miami because they drafted Tua. He left Miami and he went to Tennessee, and he had 3 or 4 good years until this year. And he won playoff games for the Tennessee Titans. And Justin Fields, he just has so much potential. But as a Bears fan, and you want to see them get better, because I know a couple of weeks back you said, are you a Bears fan or are you a Justin Fields fan? After this game and after that fumble at the end of the game, I know it wasn't his fault because the defense literally gave up 17 unanswered points with 4 minutes left. And how can you, that's not on the quarterback. And
sure.
a lot of... No,
he definitely didn't lose us the game, but it doesn't help that you have a fumble sack, a strip sack, whatever, fumble for a safety right at the end. It's not good optics.
No, it's not. That was the worst time for it. Because every time he gets into a situation to win the game or drive us down into a game-winning situation, he either fumbles the ball or he throws the interception. And once again, we've seen him fail at this, and it sucks. It really does suck because he's a good dude. Like he says all the right things in the media. He says all the right things in the media. He has all the talent in the world, but he can't put it all together. And it just like we're in a very humbling time as Chicago Bears fans because we know we have a quarterback that has the potential to do big things in the NFL, but he can't get it done. So do you want the potential or do you want the result? And right now,
Something else I've asked you before.
yeah, we want the result. We want the result. We love the potential, but we want the result, and it sucks because like he's perfect with the media. I remember Mitch; he would always like get so flabbergasted when he talked to the media when he had a bad game, and he would just like stumble like all over his words, and he would struggle. And Justin, he's very poetic with what he says,
And
and it
to me,
breaks my
you're talking about that a lot and stuff. And to me, I don't give a fuck how you are with the media. I don't think that has anything to do with how you play football and whether or not you win games. Like, sure, it's more beneficial for an organization to be like a little bit better, like suited media wise and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, who gives a fuck about any of that? Win fucking games. Play good football. Like that is what your job is to do. Sure, like you have some side quest type things of talking to some reporters and stuff like that and whatnot, but like win football games. At the end of the day, that's why you're here.
I agree, but at the same time, can you tell me any quarterback from the 2021 draft class that's better than Justin Fields right now? Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. Those are just a few quarterbacks from that draft class. And
Sure.
maybe
That's okay. Not the argument I'm making.
I get it.
I'm making the argument, like, you're talking a bunch about how good he is with the media, so you don't want to see him go, but, like, who gives a fuck about how they are with the media? Like, I give a fuck about their skill on the field. I'm not saying Justin doesn't have that skill. I'm not saying he's the best out of his draft class. I'm just saying that what you're currently talking about is his media portrayal, not his skills on the field. And I'm saying I don't give a fuck about the media portrayal.
So we can talk about his skill on the field. He is a decent quarterback on the field. Like he does have, and we've talked about this in the past of like maybe the NFL should move into like a starter and a reliever and a closer type of quarterback system because Justin Fields is great in the first 3 quarters of the game. Great.
We've watched him start. I don't know if I'd say the first 3 quarters necessarily, but we've watched him on opening drives. This would be another stat we'd have to look into and look up sometime, but I swear to God, he's like 90% on opening drives of scoring.
100%. Yeah, no, he looks great in the first half of the game. I won't say first 3 quarters. I'll say the first half. He looks great in the first half of the game, and then closing, he doesn't know how to close a game, and I think a lot of that is coaching, but he does have a lot of skill. And that's what I'm going to say. He does have the skill to be an NFL quarterback. He can read defenses. That was a beautiful pass in this game to DJ Moore when he stepped up in the pocket and he dropped it right in the bucket for 55 yards.
And we've seen him get better under a pressure situation. There were a couple times I remember noting in this game, I think it was this game at least, but where he's scrambling around, like he has a bit of an open space, he's kind of running at it, and he dumps off the pass like late before crossing the line. Something he never used to do in his first couple of years. Every time he was taking off running, which is great. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You know, go get the first down. If you see open grass, take it, go. But that's something that I know announcers have talked about in his first couple of years is a great quarterback. If there's a chance to get that ball downfield on those scrambles and stuff, an elite quarterback is looking for that, and he hits the receivers. He doesn't just take off every time. And we saw him do that a little bit in this last game. He actually checked it down or threw that pass late a few times instead of just taking off running.
For sure. So I've talked about like what I feel with Justin Fields. So with like maybe we do have to move on, right? Like understanding what's your perspective on it? Like I honestly don't know what your perspective is. So
I think I'm at the point where, like you said, we need to move on from him. I think he's a fine quarterback, so wherever he goes, he's going to have success to some degree, whether they use him right away, whether he's a rookie for a bit and steps in a year or two or something like that. I don't know. but I do think that we're getting nowhere with him. It's been 3 seasons now. We're seeing ever so slight progress, and sure, there's some promise there, like you always mention, but it's got to come through at some point. It should be through by now. You're 3 seasons in, and it just doesn't seem to be clicking like it needs to be. I do think it's time to move on. I think it's time to draft somebody else. And maybe we don't move on right away. Maybe we just draft somebody else, keep Justin another year, sit Bo Nix behind him for a year, and then next year debut Bo Nix, or even late in the season, depending on how the season's going, debut Bo Nix, get him some reps or something, say, hey, let's see what you can do with the NFL.
So I like where you're coming from with like drafting someone and keeping him, right? But what happens next year? We get a new coach and everything clicks. Then did you waste a draft pick on a new quarterback?
No, not at all.
What do you do? What do you do with him then? Like, do you just like move on still from Justin Fields, or do you move on from trade that quarterback that has potential? Because there has been situations in the NFL that both situations have occurred. So like
You can either trade for picks or for other players that you need in the system or whatever, or you can do a fucking Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and just let him sit there and chill until it's time for him to come out and be the next long-term star.
But that's hard too because Justin Fields is still young. Like I don't think you could. Justin Fields is only 24. 24 years old. You were close. He's only
24.
What?
I said 24. What do you mean?
I hit it. My bad. But no, Justin Fields is only 24 years old. So if you do like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, that man's going to be sitting for a long, long time. Because like if he does figure,
but I'm just saying, like I don't think it's a waste at all to take a court because I don't think it's a waste of anything. I mean, shit, we have hella picks next year or coming up. Like we have the first and second overall, assuming everything goes like correctly.
The hard part with it is because like with the number 1 pick, everyone is still saying fucking Caleb Williams, and I would rather take another year of losing with Justin Fields over having Caleb Williams, even if Caleb Williams is a great quarterback.
I will say to backtrack slightly on what you're saying with media portrayal, and this is a little bit with media portrayal, and it's kind of not, but just I hate Caleb Williams as a person. He's a little diva, and so yes, at the end of the day, if he came and won games and like had great skill and whatever, like sure, I guess I'd have to give him props. I'd have to say yes, that's what your job is. You're doing it right. But at the same time, I do dislike him so much as a person that yes, I fully agree. I do not want him as a Bear. I will see Justin through one more season. Like, please, let's see what we got. Frankly, I think we take Bo Nix. You know, I'm a Bo Nix fan. I'm watching it right now.
I agree, but that's just where I'm coming from. Because, like, if I was the GM, or if you were the GM, right, I would trade that pick. I would trade that number 1 pick because let someone else.
Let someone get the number 2 overall. Like,
yeah, let someone else go get Caleb Williams. We don't want to deal with him in Chicago. And then Drake May, I don't want to deal with another North Carolina quarterback. I'm sorry. Like, it's that biasy thing that we saw Mitch Trubisky, like, from North Carolina, and we drafted him, and he was rough. It was bad in Chicago. So I don't want to see Drake May. And I know 2 different quarterbacks. I get it. But it's just us being dumb football fans that have that same mindset. You talked about it with going to the bar and stuff. Dumb football fans, we have this same ideology of, oh, he went to North Carolina. I can't like this guy. Like, and so, like, no, I don't want Drake May. I wouldn't mind Michael Penix. I would like Michael Penix. And I wouldn't mind Bo Nix. Those 2 I would be okay with. Moving on from Justin Fields.
Definitely. I would take Michael Penix, too. I haven't watched him a ton or seen too much action of his, but, I mean, if he's pulling number 1 in the Heisman race right now, you got to think he ain't too bad of a guy to have.
For sure.
I'd be all right with that as well. But we'll move on into some of our other games to recap here. We're about out of time. Broncos versus Vikings. Broncos won was this their 4th or their 5th straight game? 4th straight game. 21-20 over the Minnesota Vikings. Huge win. Like 4 games straight. They are now sitting decently, I think, in a wild card or in the hunt. They're in the playoff picture. I don't know if they're quite in it yet, but they're definitely in the hunt and kind of heading in that direction right now.
Yeah, so the Dolphins, I mean, the Broncos right now, they're 10th place in the wild card. So, like, they're 10th place in the AFC. They're
There you
right
go.
behind the Colts and the Bills. So, they're on the bubble. That's what they're saying. So, yeah, no, I mean, they started off 0-4, and that win against Chicago kind of flipped their season around. So, at least we helped out one organization. Um, but yeah, no, and Russell Wilson's looking. They're second in the AFC West, and Russell Wilson, and I think I can finally say this. He's back to not prime Russell Wilson in Seattle, but he's back to his last year, Russell
He's
Wilson in
he's
Seattle.
playing more like himself.
Yes, and I think it's just took a lot for. Um, it just took a lot for him to get used to Sean Payton's offense. I think that's what it is, and Nathaniel Hackett, he was terrible for Russell Wilson, and that's why they fired him last year. Sean Payton,
Just
he's
goes
right
to
as
show
shit.
you just goes to show you how important that head coach and quarterback relationship is. So, like you're saying, like Bears, we need a relationship there. Just get a good relationship there, we'll be fine.
Sure.
Speaking of that AFC West, we had a little Super Bowl rematch going on. Eagles at Chiefs. Eagles ended up pulling off this one, 21-17. Chiefs did not look good, like at all.
I was going to say neither team really looked good in the first half.
It didn't fit.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts didn't look great. Patrick Mahomes, he looked good. A lot of, and it comes back to the same situation with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're really hurting without Tyreek Hill and like a true number one receiver because Marquise Scantlin, uh, Valdez Scantlin dropped that ball at the end of the game. And one, Patrick Mahomes' go-to target, Travis Kelsey, fumbled the ball going into the end zone. Like this game, like it could have been so much better than it was. But yeah, the Chiefs fall to the Eagles, and I'm glad because I kind of like the Eagles, definitely over the Chiefs. And the Eagles just look like a very competent team, man. Like I
I,
think they're the best team in the North or in the NFC.
I like the Eagles too. I want to say I was rooting for them in the Super Bowl last year. I don't fully remember though, but I like the Eagles winning this one just because it is a little bit of a rematch, and having lost the Super Bowl, I was like, okay, it's your turn here. It's like you got to show that you can handle these guys. And frankly, kind of like you said, I don't know if the Eagles necessarily beat the Chiefs, but the Chiefs lost the game,
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. Like dropped balls. I watched an entire highlight reel of Valdez Scantling dropping passes from his time in Green Bay, from the Chiefs. Like he has an entire highlight reel of just like hands ground. Like so, I don't know. Something about the receivers were just off. I keep seeing TikToks of like Mahomes chewing out all the receivers, like, "Oh, y'all are shit." Like I'm dropping dimes on you, but not actually, but like jokes of it, But yeah, that was definitely a game lost, kind of by the receiving core a little bit.
yeah, no, it was a rough game by the Chiefs, and one like the offensive play calling was rough for Kansas City. There was a lot of like run pass, like kind of like Kirk Ferentz almost style. Like it, that's where the Chiefs have struggled. But who is their offensive coordinator? Oh, that's right, Matt fucking Nagy, and it all comes back to Matt Nagy. We talked about Eric Bieniemy earlier in the pod with him leaving to get under Andy Reid's spotlight. They thought they could, fill a gap with Matt Nagy because he was the offensive coordinator for Kansas City prior, and he's doing much of the same in Kansas City with better talent, and it shows. It really shows.
Yep. So good luck with that, Chiefs. You're not going anywhere this year. But last game we'll recap: Packers Lions. This game happened on Thanksgiving, just yesterday. Packers actually ended up winning 29-22. Packers got back-to-back wins now. They actually look like they're heating up a little bit. The Lions look like they're very, very much cooling down.
Yeah, man. One, it should be back-to-back losses, as we mentioned. The Bears should have beat the Lions. Um, One, I hated this game because like as much as the Lions came back and won against the Bears, like I still wanted the Lions to beat the Packers because fuck the Packers.
Oh,
And
so,
so I had a mixed bag with this game. Like it was
oh,
really hard.
I didn't have a mixed bag at all. Fuck the Packers. I wanted the Lions to win this thing.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, no, Jared Goff, man, the last 2 weeks. So he was 16-4. Like, so the Lions, they were 16-4 going into this game in the last 20 games. Now they're 16-5. But Jared Goff, he had 3 turnovers against the Bears, and he had 3 turnovers against the Packers. What is going on with Jared Goff right now? Like, and that's like the big question in Detroit.
I spoke out against him, and he listened to the pod, and I shattered his confidence. I apologize.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, now we're going to see a 4 touchdown performance by Jerry Goff next week.
There you
Hopefully.
go.
But yeah, sucky game. Jordan Love looked like a great quarterback. I don't like that. We like the fact, but maybe this is just one of these 2 weeks or one of these games to keep Jordan Love in Green Bay. Maybe he's just average.
That is true. I will say though, I guess I did have a little bit of a mixed bag with this game because I needed a fantasy quarterback really badly. Deshaun
Oh,
Watson is on IR. Matt Stafford has not been getting the job done. And I looked at the waiver wire, and the top option was Jordan Love.
oh,
Did not want to take him. A little biased about it, but did not want to take him whatsoever. I was like, all right, who's the next guy on the waiver wire? I don't even remember who it was. Someone very insignificant. So I was kind of left with no options. So I picked up Love. I started him, and I was like, okay, I don't love this move, but like I've got no other choices. He did end up getting me 26 points because he threw for 3 touchdowns. He had some rushing yards and like had a decent game. So I was like, all right, as much as I hate this, like I'll take it.
oh, Max. A Packers quarterback? I
Yeah,
never even picked up
it's
Aaron Rodgers when he was the Packers quarterback.
it's
Oh,
fantasy football, and I needed a quarterback. Sue me.
that's fair. I mean, he did get you 26 points. I'm looking at it right now. So, I mean, that's fair. And you're about to beat Sam, which I need you to beat Sam for my.
Am I though? Because we're both really fucking close.
Yeah, that's true. He did have A.J. Dillon and Dotson. All right. But yeah, so I'll give you some slack there because, yeah, Deshaun Watson has been rough all year and now he's hurt. So, but yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah, that
All right,
sucks.
Avery's done with that now, so we'll move on into our upcoming games that we have going on. We'll do one from each time slot happening here. Obviously, a good chunk of teams already played yesterday. We had the one Black Friday game today, but we have Jaguars Texans tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow Saturday. On Sunday in our noon slot. To you guys listening, it'll be tomorrow because this is going to come out on Saturday.
But yeah, no, this game will be cool, man. One, CJ Stroud, love the guy. I think we both love the guy for what he's done in Houston. And this is for first place in the AFC North. Right now, the Jaguars are 7-3, and they're facing the Texans, which are 6-4. And so this is going to be a big, big game. And if the Texans can win this, the Texans have a good shot at going to the playoffs.
I would
And
love to see the Texans in the playoffs just because I do enjoy CJ Stroud. I do think he's a good quarterback. And just bringing the Texans straight to the playoff, like first year, like that'd be cool. That'd be nice to see. They deserve it. It's been a while.
I agree. And I do think the Texans right now, they are the better. I don't know because like I like Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, he won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia, and he's done a really good job with the Jaguars the last couple of years. But D'Amico Ryan, man, like the new head coach in Houston, like he's done a great job also. One, the quarterback play has been the issue for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good at all this year.
No,
Like he's 11 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, but he's played all year long. Like just comparing that to Justin Fields stats, and we
the
talked about
the Jaguars are 1.5 point favorites.
1.5 point favorites. I do think the Texans. I think I would take Texans money line if I'm a betting man, which I'm not right now.
If I'm gonna take anybody to cover 1.5, you might as well just take them fucking money line. Like
I agree 100%. So like I do think that the Texans win this game though. I think the Texans come out and they beat the Jaguars. They take first lead and they don't look back this year because
yeah,
their defense is firing.
I'm with you on that. The very very little amount I've watched of the Texans or the Jaguars. I don't think I've watched any of the Jaguars to be honest. But with my very, very limited knowledge and scope of things, more so just my biases internally for some reason, C.J. Stroud over Trevor Lawrence, I think the Texans pull this one off.
I agree, 100%. The next game, though, man, is interesting too. The Buffalo Bills versus the Philadelphia Eagles at the
This is in our
3.
this is in our afternoon time slot, and I don't think this is interesting because I think the Bills are about to get murdered.
I think the Bills are back. I mean, they demolished the Jets after losing to the Broncos, and right now, and this is crazy, but they're in a gauntlet right now. They have the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers. They have to win at least, I would say, 3 of those games to have a shot at the playoffs. So this is like playoff football for the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles
Are 3-point favorites. Sorry.
they're 3-point favorites.
Yep.
But the Eagles right now, what's their record? The Eagles are 9-1. I think this is a game that the Eagles lose. I really truly think this is a game that the Eagles drop because I think the Bills are playing for something so much greater because they're on like the verge of not even making the playoffs. So I think the Bills come out and win this game.
The Bills are definitely playing for something greater, I would say. That's true. But at the same time, the Bills have just looked so bad. Like, it's not like they're not like, I don't know. I always play it a little bit to like they're going to play hard for this one. Or even like when you're saying like Nebraska always plays Iowa hard. Like you play every team hard. Like you want to win every game. You play every team to the best of your ability. Like sure, some things help you turn it on a little bit, like a big rivalry with like Nebraska Iowa. That can get you a little juiced up and playing heavy. But I don't know, to some degree at the end of the day, like I think you are who you are, and the Bills have not looked good. I don't think they're a great team or anything this season. The Eagles are coming off a little bit of a rough game with the Chiefs, but at the same time, I think they look at that and they snap back a little bit. Like, hey, that was rough for us. We can't be doing that. We have another, high-powered offense, like big game for us. Like, let's go dominate it.
I agree. I guess we're at odds on this game, but I do think the Bills, because like the reason I was going to say that is because like they have had a couple of games back to back that they have looked competent. Like the Commanders, they smoked the Commanders.
They're playing the Eagles though, so they need more than competence.
I think the Bills win this. I think we see a prime Josh Allen game. I really do. I think Josh Allen goes out and throws 4 TDs. And
we shall see.
For
we
sure.
shall see. I also want to say I'm very, very proud of you for not saying trap game. You actually said the Eagles lose, and you did not say trap game at any point in your explanation. So, good job.
This next game could be a trap game. No, I'm kidding. But it could be the Ravens versus the Chargers. Like the Chargers, they're okay. Like they had a tough game against Green Bay last week that they should have won this game. The Ravens have the best record in the AFC right now. What is the Ravens' record?
I have no idea on any opinions with this game because I have literally watched either team play one time, and that was when the Chargers played the Bears. So,
okay.
Looks like the Ravens are favored by 3.5, and I probably am going to have to agree with that out of no real reason other than slight bias of what I know. Ravens win this one.
Well, yeah, I think the Ravens, they're 8-3. Chargers are 4-6. And the Ravens want to keep first place in the AFC North. The Browns, believe it or not, are right behind them. Also, sports news, Joe Flacco signed with the Cleveland Browns. Former Raven. He's not starting this week because he's getting caught up to speed. But Joe Flacco might end up starting for the Cleveland Browns later in the year because they're starting Dorian Thompson. And P.J. Walker has officially been benched the rest of the year. His performance with the Browns was not that great. But yeah, no, I think that the Ravens could. I do think the Ravens win this game. Lamar Jackson's on another level right now.
Definitely. But last game, we will talk about our Monday Night Football game, Bears at Vikings. I'll look up the spread real quick. What do you think's happening in this game?
Bears win this game. I'm going in with blind faith in this game. We almost beat the Vikings the last time we played them. We lost 19-13. Tyson Bagent's first ever half that he played in the third and fourth quarter. The Vikings, the Broncos kind of ended their win streak last week. And right now, the Bears are averaging 20.9 points a game. Vikings are averaging 23 points a game. To be honest, like I got a feeling this is a Bears game. Like whenever everyone's down on the Bears, they come out and they win a game to bring us back in this year. I don't know
The
what it
Bears,
is.
the Bears are underdogs by 3 points. I, I, I'll take us to cover that maybe. Like I don't know if we win per se, but I think there's a good chance we can cover, only lose by a couple. I don't know. It could really go either way because we're seeing two completely different quarterbacks going against each other in this one. You know, we got Joshua Dobbs instead of Kirk Cousins, and now we have Justin Fields instead of Tyson Bagent. So I don't know. It's up in the air. These are two bad teams in the freaking uh, NFC North, and just I don't know. I'm gonna take Bears to cover. That's my official stance.
One thing, and I know we talked about it last week, and you pulled up the stats, but the Bears do have the number 2 rushing defense right now in the NFL. We've only allowed 6 rushing touchdowns on the year, and we've only allowed 79.5 yards per game. And so I don't know how much of that is the Montez Sweat factor, and I don't know how much of that is the Bears defense kind of coming alive. But I do think that the Vikings have a really bad rushing attack. Josh Dobbs, I'm not buying it right now because, like, yeah, he's came in and he's looked good, but we saw that with the Cardinals too. The first 3 games, he went in and he won the first 2 games, one including the Dallas Cowboys in the beginning of the year. He always looks good for the first 3 games, but that 4th game hits and he struggles. And I think this is the game that Josh Dobbs comes back down to earth, and he looks like why he has been a backup quarterback for 7 years in the NFL. And I think the Bears win this game.
Hopefully, their rushing defense, sure, is number 2 right now, which that changes week to week as games are played because these stats are just based on games. So, but the passing defense they're still 26th.
Yeah.
Like, Dobbs can throw. Dobbs is not an incompetent like backup or anything. He is very capable of getting the job done. And isn't that this week Justin Jefferson is back, correct?
Actually, no, he is not going to be back this week.
Another week.
He was supposed to be, but yeah, another week. So we don't have to face him. All we got to face is Jordan Addison, which I'm good with. Like, we could shut down the rookie, even though he's had an incredible rookie year. I think we couldn't shut down the rookie, and I think the Bears have a shot this week. I really do.
They have a shot. I would not call it a strong shot, but they have a shot.
And this is what I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the Lions. I think the Bears are a competent football team. I'm not going to say they're a bad football team, and I'm not going to say they're a good football team, because every game we played, minus the Chiefs this year, we've had a potential to win that game in the 4th quarter. I do think the Bears are a competent football team, and they can play with anybody in the NFL, minus the Chiefs, because that was a bad game. But
I'm partially disagreeing with you on that, because if they were truly a competent football team, you don't lose every game in the 4th quarter. Like, sure, we lose every game close and we lose it in the 4th quarter, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you're losing games. That's, competency would be like being consistent, winning against the bad teams, losing to some of the better teams. And we're not doing that. We're just losing.
I agree, in a way, but at the same time, like, I think it does say something that we are in every game. Like, I mean,
it makes it better to watch. It makes it easier to digest all of our losses, sure.
But I mean, we're not the Giants. We're even the Patriots this year that have been blown out multiple times. Like, the Giants have been blown out multiple times. The Cardinals have been blown out multiple times. The Bears have only been blown out once. Like, truly been blown out once. And, like, we do play good games. Like, we do look like we're going to win. And it sucks because as a Bears fan, we do look like we're going to win the first 3 quarters of every fucking football game. And this dates back to being the Chicago Bears are the fucking equivalent of the Nebraska fucking Cornhuskers, because I feel the same way. We have the shot to win every single fucking game we play, and we lose them. and it sucks. But the Bears, I would say, are, I don't know if competence the right word, but we're in every fucking game. We are.
We're in every game. I can get behind that. We are definitely in every game. Our biggest incompetency is just not being able to, as you said earlier, finish those games and actually handle like a fourth quarter victory win. But that being said, that is all the time we have here for you guys today. Oregon is up 31-7 on Oregon State in the fourth quarter. Is about 4.5 minutes left, so I think it's pretty safe to say Oregon's going to walk away with this one. I just saw Bo Nix actually has the highest completion percentage in a single season record right now, like of all time. Like he has the record above Mac Jones. So that's neat. I wouldn't mind Bo Nix. I'm just going to repeat that once again. But all right, please like, subscribe, comment. I want to hear you guys' feedback, everything. We will come out with another episode next week, I assume. So, Avery?
Yeah. Also, Iowa-Nebraska game. I forgot Chubba Purdy is the younger brother of Brock Purdy. I just wanted to mention that. We forgot to talk about that. But anyways, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble, even though I'm tired. But we got 2 words to say. Bear down!